In today's episode, we're going to beef up the frame for your Squarebody's steering box. In today's episode, we're going to be installing a steering box frame support kit. These can be used if you've cracked your frame around your steering box, which is really common for these Squarebodies, or you could do it as preventative maintenance like we're doing on this 84 K5 Blazer. Come along, we're going to show you just how easy it is, and heck, while we're there, we're going to install an XJ steering shaft as well. Let's do this. Let's get this project started by first locating your steering shaft and then removing this hardware. First, we'll remove this upper bolt. Now, remove the bolt down on the steering box side. Using a torch, heat the center section of the steering shaft up, melting the plastic insert here. This will allow you to collapse the steering shaft easily. Now that we've melted the plastic retainer on this steering shaft, we're going to pry down here by the steering box so we can collapse the steering shaft. Now we'll remove the upper portion of the steering shaft. Grab it right here, wiggle and pull down. Now remove both hydraulic power steering lines. Unfortunately, I filmed this video about a year ago and I lost some of the footage, so I didn't get us removing this pitman arm, but let me show you real quick. All you need to do is undo this bolt that runs along the back here, and then there's a slit in the back of the steering arm that you can stick something in to kind of spread it a little bit, and then you can beat this arm down, removing the pitman arm. To remove the steering box, there will be 4 bolts that go through the frame from the inside here. You can see there's one on this side of the cross member, and there will be 4 more on this other side. The bottom one is really hard to show with the camera, but know that there are 4 bolts that go in the steering box from the back. Now remove the power steering gearbox. We decided to do a dry fit, and it looks like we're going to have to remove this front bumper brace. So we'll pull that off, and we also removed those 2 brake lines. There's a little bolt on the frame. Now that we've removed the bumper bracket, we're going to wire wheel the frame really good and inspect for cracks around the stock holes. Something to note here is we talk about removing this bumper bracket, but in this video, we didn't talk about putting it back. All we had to do was notch the bumper bracket so it fit around this new plate that we're putting on, and then we reinstalled it once we were completely finished. We've cleaned the frame now, we've checked for cracks, luckily no cracks. So the next step, we'll put the plate up and we will bolt it through the factory holes there as tight as we can get it to the frame. There's that. Once you have the bracket adjusted how you need, put 4 bolts in and torque those down as tight as you can get them. It's important to suck this bracket right up against the frame as tight as possible. Now that we've got this bracket in place, we're gonna weld it up. Now before the internet goes wild, I know some people stitch weld and some people fully weld the whole way around this bracket, okay? I'm gonna do what the owner of the vehicle wants to do, and so I'm going to fully weld around it. I'll let you guys debate in the comments if it should have been stitch welded, but that's the way we're gonna do this, so let's burn it in. Now we've got this upper plate welded in place. What we've done is we've taken this lower plate and we had to cut a little bit off this one side here. So we are going to start tack welding it here and then beating it into place with a hammer so we can get it perfectly flush. And then we'll weld it the whole way around. There you have it. It's welded the whole way around, top and bottom. Definitely not the prettiest welds in the world, but they'll hold. Before we put the gearbox back on, we went ahead and gave it a quick coat of paint. Now we're gonna slap that gearbox on. To reinstall the steering box, there are 4 bolts, same ones you took out before. Go ahead and install those again. There's 1 on the front of this cross member, and there will be 3 on the back side of this cross member. Steering box is now installed again. We will move on to this arm here and then lower it back down and start hooking up the lines. Installing the pitman arm is really easy. You just line up the splines how you had them before, push it on, then go ahead and install that bolt there in the back and tighten everything up. Now it's time to install the XJ steering shaft. Look for this flat spot inside of here, and you match it up with the flat spot down there on your steering box. Go ahead and slide that on. And then stick a bolt through there just to hold it in place. Then extend this up and slide it on there. Okay, once you have this slid up the whole way, take a Sharpie and mark exactly where the back of the shaft is. The reason for this is the XJ shaft has a bolt that goes through the bottom, and we need to make a notch in it. And so we're going to use this Sharpie mark here and measure off to figure out exactly where we need to put the notch. So now we'll pull this off and I'll show you where that notch is. Okay, can you rotate it up? In the back here, you can see a bolt's going to go right there, kind of across the back, right here. So we've got to make just a small little notch. So here's what we're thinking is going to make this easy. Since that's going to be on the bottom of this shaft here, we're actually going to go in and turn the steering wheel so that the bottom of that is facing upwards. And then we'll mark where to make the notch. We'll just use a grinder to put a little notch in there. Right there. On our shaft, it ended up being about 3/8 to the center where we need to make a little notch. Okay, it doesn't take much. You can just put a little notch in it and rotate that steering wheel back over and bolt it in. The last step is just tightening these bolts. These ones happen to be a 1/2 inch. Verify on the XJ shaft that you get, but it should be the same. Now reattach your power steering lines. Well, there you have it. As you can see, installing this steering box frame plate kit really wasn't that complicated. It is time consuming and you do need to weld, but something you should be able to do at home. And I highly recommend it, especially if you're putting big tires on your square body. If you found this useful or helpful at all, do us a favor and like and subscribe. It would mean a lot. I'm Joe, and this is You Went to Garage.